just sickens me. It sickens all of us, and we're tired of seeing this, quite frankly.
We're dying. We're dying.
More lives lost to gun violence with no end in sight. And now Philadelphia could be staring down the barrel of a long and violent summer. The city of Philadelphia is seeing staggering numbers when it comes to gun violence. According to the city controller's office, there have been nearly 450 non-fatal shootings and more than 100 fatal shootings as of mid-April. And listen to this. In our area, 55 children have been shot in 2021. Think about it. That's almost 2 full classrooms of students traumatized by gun violence. And it's only April. Joining me now is Philadelphia City Council member Kenyatta Johnson. Johnson co-chairs Council's Special Committee on Gun Violence Prevention. Councilman, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Tracy.
So we just mentioned the numbers, and the experts predict the shootings will increase over the summer. What's being done right now, and what do you want to be done?
Well, first and foremost, Tracy, we have to have an all-hands-on-the-deck approach when it comes to addressing the senseless gun violence that we're seeing. And so, obviously, the mayor just introduced his budget to City Council, which is going in the right direction. But we also have to do more when it comes to figuring out ways to, one, invest in our young people, two, find out where the guns are coming from, and three, most importantly, making sure that those who are using these guns are held accountable. And so we're looking forward to the upcoming budget process to make sure we're investing in our young people, making sure that we're finding a comprehensive approach when it comes to addressing the senseless gun violence.
Talk about what that looks like, investing in young people.
Well, we want to make sure during this upcoming summer that we're opening up our parks and our recreation centers, because we know during the pandemic, our schools are shut down and our recreation centers and our playgrounds were shut down, and that left opportunities for our young people to get involved in things that are negative as opposed to things that are positive. And so we want to make sure that our recreation centers and our playgrounds are open with sufficient programming for our young people, but also want to make sure that we're investing heavily in youth job opportunities for our young people during this upcoming summer, and also looking at the issue of trauma support services. We know that hurt people, and so we want to get to the root cause of why are so many young people angry, why are they picking up guns and taking the lives of other young people, and most importantly, finding ways to give them a sense of hope. And so in City Council, we have a violence prevention and opportunities agenda that we all will be working on, and looking at initiatives such as the Office of Victims Advocate that will serve and support those family members who have lost loved ones to gun violence. Looking at bringing back curfew centers to make sure that our young people are safe when they are outside in the evening, and most importantly, making sure that if they are outside in the wee hours in the morning, that when they do have a place to come to, they can also receive the type of services that they need that will focus on them being involved in things that are positive. And also, we're going to be focusing on creating a 24-hour hotline for those individuals who need support services around this issue of senseless gun violence. And so we have a comprehensive strategy that we're going to be focusing on, but all starts with the budget and City Council as well.
How did gun violence get to this point in our city?
You know what, Tracy? You know, if you ask me, ending the year last year at 500 murders was totally unacceptable, and we're on a trajectory of releasing at least 600 plus. But it comes from a significant history of disinvestment in young people, you know, and what we know in areas of high crime and violence are areas that are basically areas of poverty. And so we have to invest on the front end in supporting our young people, keeping our schools open, making sure that there's a school-to-career pipeline for our young people, most importantly, giving them a sense of hope, because the numbers have shown the shooters are becoming younger and younger, and that's totally unacceptable. And so we have to do a better job addressing this issue with a sense of emergency and making sure it's the number one priority that we are addressing here in the city of Philadelphia.
You make a good point. I mean, any death to gun violence is unacceptable, but it's especially heartbreaking when we have to see and say the number of children being shot. And that, I think, has an impact not just on the family, but on the community, to think children are being shot in our community.
Absolutely. You know, when you think about the family members who have lost loved ones to gun violence, they're dealing with a level of trauma. But also, let's look at our neighborhoods and our communities. When they see a 6-year-old get shot and their father murdered, that whole community is suffering from the issue of trauma as relates to senseless gun violence. And so we're seeing younger and younger young people whose lives are being taken by senseless gun violence, and it's having a significant impact, not only on their family members, but the actual communities in which we all live in.
So many factors at work here. We have to address the businesses and how they're impacted. And then these businesses have faced the pandemic, trying to come out of it. What could be done to help businesses?
Well, first and foremost, we have to make sure our streets are safe, because if our streets aren't safe, no one will want to go shopping. No one will want to even visit the city of Philadelphia. And so we know travel and tourism is one of our major economic generators. But who wants to come to a city that isn't safe? And so we have to have an all-hands-on-deck approach on making sure that all of our law enforcement agencies are working aggressively, hand in hand, communicating, and most importantly, working alongside one another to make sure that we reduce this level of gun violence that we're seeing in the city of Philadelphia. But most importantly, address it aggressively enough so we can eliminate the senseless gun violence that we're seeing, which will have a significant impact on our economy, because people will feel safe to come to Center City. People will feel safe to come to the city of Philadelphia. And comprehensively, we have to address the issue of poverty, because if we don't address the issue of poverty, and we're the #1 biggest city in our country when it comes to the issue of poverty, if we don't address it from that aspect, then we won't be the economically viable city that we can be. And so it all comes to making sure our citizens are safe, our young people are safe, investing in our schools, investing in our young people on the front end so we don't have to deal with these issues on the back end. And ultimately, the young people who we are investing in, they will be the next CEOs and next elected officials and next workers here in the city of Philadelphia. So it's a win-win for all of us if we work hand in hand together in addressing this issue.
Before we let you go, you mentioned the mayor's budget. Mayor Jim Kenney included several anti-violence proposals, including $1.3 million to expand violence interruption programs like community crisis intervention programs. Does that feel like enough?
Well, you know, it's a step in the right direction, but we need to do more. We have to take bolder steps when it comes to investment. And this is a moment in history where we can have the opportunity. We have close to $1.4 billion coming from the federal government, where we can infuse a significant amount of resources and support and investment in our young people. And again, you asked the question, why are we seeing levels of gun violence that we're seeing? It's because it comes from years of not significantly investing in prevention programs. We can invest in law enforcement. Let's invest in our young people on the front end.
Philadelphia City Council Member Kenyatta Johnson, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me, Tracy, and keep up the great work.